This is the video where everything comes together. Over the previous 7 videos, we have built up every piece of the timing analysis puzzle. Setup and hold constraints, PVT corners, multi-VT cell libraries, interconnect RC delay, clock trees, and skew. Every piece is important on its own, but in real chip design, you never deal with them in isolation. What you face is an STA report with negative slack, paths that are failing time, and a deadline. Your job is to fix them. That process is called timing closure, and it's what chip engineers spend a significant portion of their careers doing. In this video, we'll walk through a real failing path from minus 120 picoseconds of slack all the way to positive closure, using exactly the same tools and techniques used on production designs. Let's start with the clearest possible definition of the problem. Slack is required time minus arrival time. When slack is positive, the data arrived before it needed to. You have margin. When slack is zero, you're right on the edge. When slack is negative, the data arrived after the required time. The flip-flop tried to capture data that hadn't settled yet. That's a timing violation, and it means the chip will malfunction at that clock frequency. In our example, required time is 330 picoseconds, but the data arrives at 450 picoseconds. So slack is 330 minus 450 or minus 120 picoseconds. The data is 120 picoseconds too late. That number tells you two things. The path is failing and it needs to recover at least 120 picoseconds of margin before the design can be taped out. The question is how? Let's put a face on this violation. The failing path runs from a launch flip-flop through an AND gate, an inverter, an AOI-21 compound gate, and a NOR gate, arriving at the capture flip-flop FF2. Each gate contributes its propagation delay. The interconnect between them contributes an RC delay on top of that. And it all adds up to total path delay of 450 picoseconds. The clock period is 400 picoseconds and the capture flip-flop needs 70 picoseconds of setup time, giving a required arrival of 330 picoseconds. We are 120 picoseconds over. This path is what the STA tool puts at the top of your worst slack report. It's the bottleneck. Until this path is fixed, the chip cannot run at its target frequency. Everything else is secondary. Here's the most important mindset shift for understanding timing closure. It is never a single fix. Timing closure is a campaign. You apply one optimization, rerun timing, find the new worst path, apply the next optimization, and repeat. Each iteration peels away some negative slack. The chart on the slide tells the story. Starting at minus 100 picoseconds, improving to minus 40 after gate sizing, to minus 10 after VT swapping, to plus 15 picoseconds after buffer insertion. Now, the techniques in your toolkit are gate sizing, multi-VT swapping, buffer insertion, placement optimization, and logic restructuring. They each address a different root cause of delay, and the skill is knowing which one to reach for based on what the timing report is telling you. Let's walk through each step on our example path. The first and most common optimization is gate sizing, increasing the drive strength of slow gates on the critical path. Standard cell libraries provide every gate function in multiple drive strengths, X1, X2, X4, X8, and sometimes higher. A larger cell contains wider transistors that can source or sink more current, charging load capacitances faster and reducing propagation delay. The trade off is real. Bigger cells take more area and consume more dynamic power. But on a critical path, that's usually an acceptable cost. In our example, the NAND gate and the inverter are the two slowest contributors. The tool upsizes the NAND from X1 to X4 and the inverter from X1 to X3. The logic hasn't changed, just the transistor widths inside those cells. So here's what the sizing buys us in numbers. The NAND delay drops from 90 picoseconds to 60 picoseconds, a 30 picosecond improvement. The inverter drops from 70 to 45 picoseconds, another 25 picoseconds saved. So we've recovered 55 picoseconds here. Part delay goes down from 450 picoseconds to 390 picoseconds, and hence the updated slack goes to minus 60 picoseconds. We have cut the violation in half. That's real progress. But we're still failing. The path needs another 60 picoseconds of improvement, and we've already used the sizing lever hard. Pushing these gates any bigger yields diminishing returns and starts causing issues with load capacitance on their inputs. Time for the next tool. The original synthesis pass placed the AOI-21 and NOR gates as HVT and SVT cells respectively. Sensible defaults for minimizing leakage. But on a critical path, leakage is not your primary concern. Speed is. Swapping the AOI-21 from HVT to LVT and the NOR from SVT to LVT costs more leakage power on those two cells, but it directly reduces their switching delay. The LVT transistors turn on more easily and drive their outputs faster. After the swap, AOI-21 now runs at 55 picoseconds. NOR runs at 50 seconds, down from its SVT value. Those are again meaningful reductions across two of the slower cells in the chain. Notice we left other gates in the path alone. No point converting cells that already have comfortable slack. The leakage cost of LVT is only worth paying where timing actually needs them. So let's update the scoreboard. After the VT swaps, path delay drops from 390 picoseconds to 340 picoseconds. The slack is 330 minus 340 or minus 10 picoseconds. We are tantalizingly close, 10 picoseconds from closure. The optimization waterfall has done most of the heavy lifting. What started as a 120 picosecond deficit is now a 10 picosecond gap. But minus 10 picoseconds is still a violation. A chip that's 10 picoseconds from failing timing will fail timing in silicon at worst case process corners at high temperature with power supply droop. 10 picoseconds of negative slack is not close enough. It needs to go to 0 and beyond. One more step. Look carefully at the timing path. Between the AOI-21 and the NOR gate, there is a long interconnect segment, long enough that the RC delay of the wire itself is contributing meaningfully to the total path delay. The fix here isn't a faster gate, it's the wire itself. By inserting a buffer at the midpoint of that long interconnect, we split it into two shorter segments. Each segment sees half the resistance and half the capacitance. And because wire delay scales with the product of R and C, both of which half, each segment's delay is roughly 1/4 of the original. 2 quarters equals half the original, so we've cut the wire contribution significantly. The buffer also restores the signal's edge rate, which matters because a slow transition at the NOR input would otherwise degrade its own switching delay on top of the wire RC. So after buffer insertion, part delay drops from 340 picoseconds to 315 picoseconds. Required time is 330 picoseconds, so the final slack is 330 minus 315, which is plus 15 picoseconds. Timing closure achieved. Let's trace the full journey. We started at minus 120 picoseconds. Gate sizing recovered 60 picoseconds. VT swapping recovered another 50 picoseconds. Buffer insertion pushed us through the final 25 picoseconds. Three techniques applied in sequence, each tackling a different contributor: gate drive strength, threshold voltage, and interconnect RC. This is exactly how timing closure works on real chips. Not one magic fix, but a disciplined sequence of targeted optimizations that progressively chip away at negative slack until every path passes. Of course, our design doesn't have one critical path, it has thousands of them. A real STA run for a block level design might analyze millions of paths across multiple corners, clock domains, and operating modes. The output is a timing report that ranks paths by their slack, from worst to best. The report for each path shows which flip flops are the launch and capture endpoints, the total data path delay, the required arrival time, which accounts for clock skew and uncertainty, and the resulting slack. Engineers don't read every path. They work down the worst slack list, fixing the most critical paths first, rerunning timing, then attacking the next tier. Each fix may expose previously hidden violation as the critical path shifts. That's normal. The process continues until WNS, or the worst negative slack, crosses 0. Worst negative slack is the single most watched number in timing closures. It's the slack of the worst failing path, the deepest violation in the entire design. In our earlier examples with paths at 120 picoseconds, minus 80 picoseconds, and minus 30 picoseconds, the WNS is minus 120 picoseconds. Why focus on WNS? Because it's the blocker. The design cannot be signed off while WNS is negative, no matter how well everything else looks. Every morning during a tapeout push, the first question is, what's the WNS? As you apply optimizations, you watch WNS climb towards 0. When it crosses into positive territory, you haven't necessarily finished. There may still be other failing paths, but you've cracked the hardest case. The rest of the closure work tends to go faster from there. WNS tells how bad your worst path is. TNS, or total negative slack, tells you how bad your overall timing health is. TNS is the sum of all negative slack values across every failing path. In our example, it would be minus 120 plus minus 80 plus minus 30 or minus 230 picoseconds. So why does TNS matter separately from WNS? Because you can have a design where WNS looks manageable, say minus 30 picoseconds, but TNS is minus 5000 picoseconds because there are hundreds of paths all slightly failing. Fixing the WNS path won't touch those 200 other violations. A good TNS number alongside a good WNS number is what tells you the design is genuinely converging towards closure, not just improving one path while ignoring the rest. Tracking both metrics together gives you the full picture of where you stand. One thing that surprises newer engineers: Fixing setup timing can break hold timing and vice versa. Setup violations happen when data arrives too late. The fixes make the data path faster, upsize gates, swap to LVT, insert buffers, or add pipeline stage to split a long combinational path across two clock cycles. Hold violations happen when data arrives too early, before the previous cycle's capture edge has safely passed. The fixes do the opposite. Slow the minimum path by inserting delay buffers, usually back-to-back inverter pairs, or downsizing cells to reduce drive strength. The tension is real. A setup fix that speeds up a path can create a hold violation on the same path. A hold fix that adds delay can worsen setup margin. Both checks must be satisfied simultaneously across all PVT corners. Setup checks at the slow corner, hold checks at the fast corner. True timing closure means every check, every corner passes. We've reached the end of the series. Let's look back at the ground we've covered. We started with the fundamental question: how do you verify that a chip will work correctly at speed without simulating every possible input combination? The answer is static timing analysis, a graph based method that propagates arrival times and required times throughout the design and computes slack at every endpoint. We built up the full model layer by layer. Setup and hold constraints define what the flip flops need. PVT corners account for manufacturing variation, voltage, and temperature. Multi-VT libraries give designers the lever to trade leakage power for speed. Interconnect delay, driven by RC physics and squared relationship with wire length, often dominates path delay in modern nodes. Clock skew and uncertainty modify the effective timing budget in ways that can help or hurt, depending on direction. And timing closure is the iterative process of making everything pass. What ties it all together is this: every number in a timing report represents a physical reality: the RC of a wire, the threshold voltage of a transistor, the buffer delays in a clock tree. Understanding why those numbers are what they are, not just how to interpret them, is what separates designers who can close timing from those who can just run the tools and hope. That understanding is what the series has been building toward.